Nani?
Orate, alla Amelia Faye, orate, alla Amelia Faye. Orate, alla Amelia Faye, orate, alla Amelia Faye.
Okay, let me see here. Looks like the music volume looks okay. Microphone is not completely in view. That's fine. Okay, so this first recipe should be a quick one, considering that I'm following the directions to a T from Betty Crocker themselves. Now, I would say Betty Crocker herself, considering that Betty Crocker is one major company, and I have tried their cookies before, so... And when I've made cookies before, I have not been doing really well. I will say that for sure. The last time I made vegan cookies, they were like hard as a rock. Hey, what's up, Nick? I thank you. This is actually a meme shirt I got from Redbubble. Okay, so I think for the cookie mixture, we're going to be using this bowl, so that way things are easier to see, and y'all, I don't have to exactly like tip the bowl over, so y'all have to look into what the heck is going on when we combine the ingredients together. So this is going to be very straightforward. The oven's already been preheated to 375, and when I actually looked over the ingredients and how much we have, I needed to divide the whole recipe by half, but that's fine because this is sample size anyways. And if it turns out well, I'm going to be making the original recipes full serving in the near future anyways. Otherwise, how's it going, Nick? And let me see if I can actually fix the shadow command to work with the scene real quick.
Don't right now.
What?
Oh, okay, they both stopped on each bush. Okay. Okay, looks like they're gonna go for this cheese.
Oh my god. Are they gonna see him?
I don't think he's gonna see him. They actually just stepped right past him. Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Now the question is, does Red go to invade their
Hold on.
jungle, or do they go back to their own?
What's going on? I don't even know.
They'll probably go back to their own. They're probably just waiting
So they're
to see
gonna
if
meet him. So
They're gonna meet him, but
then.
one's going back. One's going back. But
Yeah.
this
Oh,
is
she's
gonna
got
go
the top.
forward at that
top
point.
later.
Yeah, she's got
Yeah.
this.
Oh, I would have stayed. To get the assist.
Oh, they
The
put a ward out. They
TP
put a
in.
ward out.
There's still 4 people there.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
So
Still-
Wukong might die here.
Oh my
Oh my.
There it is. The
He's gonna
cheese,
face that
son.
the bush,
The
the bottom.
cheese
Oh
is.
my dude,
Oh
yeah,
my
Guys,
god.
no, it's popping.
Oh my goodness.
Man,
The
that
fucking
sneak
cheese.
invade was dirty.
That was so
It's
nasty.
Kings of Link. How did we not see them?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I would.
Alright, so the first things first is that we're going to be combining our wet ingredients together, which is going to be... It's going to be 12 tablespoons of butter. We're going to reserve 1 more tablespoon for the next recipe. These are kind of like almost getting to room temperature, but I'm going to like blast these in the microwave for a little bit so that way they can soften up a little bit more. This is like my old trusty IKEA knife I've had since the college days. This has still served me pretty well. Yeah, so this 1 tablespoon, we'll definitely save this for another recipe. Also, making desserts is a pretty good way to use up any like leftover ingredients that you have that might be sitting in the fridge. But you don't know what else to do with them, you know? Alright, so I'm just gonna ahead and blast these for maybe like a few seconds, then we should be good to combine this with some sugar. Sometimes, like, it looks a little bit soft, but at the same time, it's still kind of a little bit hard, not completely room temp yet. There are times when bakers are, like, pretty impatient, and I know a lot of home cooks starting out are really not patient with, like, getting their specific ingredients to room temperature. You could just, like, always blast in the microwave. Otherwise, you can also, if you want to get your eggs to room temperature, what you can do is put them in some warm water, not completely hot water, or you're just trying to boil your eggs to get them to the right temperature. Do be careful though, as eggs are a very fragile ingredient, but they're an amazing ingredient. As Alton Brown says, these things can be like a meat glue, but also at the same time, these things can be like the star of a bunch of different recipes. Otherwise, hope everybody else is doing well today. Keep it fun. So first and foremost, we're gonna be. It's easy to sift. It's easy to sift in some wet ingredients. Wet ingredients. It's easy to sift in the dry ingredients
how are you?
because of, well, how easily constituted they can be. So we're gonna go ahead and put in the wet ingredients first. So butter is good to go. Just about the right texture that we need. Same thing needs to be said for the eggs, but we need to do the process of creaming the butter and sugar together. Hey Felicia, hope you're doing well. Make sure that when I do poke the butter with the knife, it is very soft. It is the right texture I want it to be. It's perfect for creaming the butter and sugar. Yo, what's up, TJ? Hope you're doing well. If a moderator's there, can we give a shout out to TJ Learns Bonsai? While I go ahead and grab some sugar. Hope everyone else is doing great. I'm doing well. Glad to hear you're doing terrific, Alicia. Let's see here. Okay. To the butter, I'm going to be adding half a cup of brown sugar. Supposedly, according to the converted measurements, I need 10 extra tablespoons. We can compensate that with the other sugar that I have on hand. There's something I want to experiment with how confectioner sugar can affect the texture of cooking. However, I am pretty 100% certain that we should still have a chewy chocolate chip cookie consistency. So this is half a cup right here. And plus, confectioner sugar is actually really good for making brownies too. And thanks for the lurk as well, TJ. I have a lot of this stuff, and this is really good for making some cheesecake as well. But considering that I haven't been using this lately, I might as well be using more of it if necessary. Plus, again, pretty good experiment on how using confectioner sugar can really affect the outcome of a dessert. So to this, we're going to be adding 1.5 cups and a quarter cup, which means I'm going to be doing 3 scoops of this. Not have one. If y'all think this might be a lot of sugar, believe me, they're going to shrink because in this bowl, we're going to be adding in a couple eggs as well. I'm just letting the eggs get to room temp in a cup of warm water first. I think in all honesty, we don't need the extra quarter cup. I feel like the extra quarter cup might be a little bit optional at this point. Because honestly, with the eggs that we're adding in here, I think we'll have enough sugar to go. Of course, you can always adjust a dessert sweetness level per your own personal preference. For me, I just when I think there's enough sugar, there's enough sugar. Now we gotta combine this together. Y'all can always trust KitchenAid to be the brand for you. Alright, so we're gonna start the mixer on low first, and then we're gonna we're gonna raise it a little bit higher accordingly. Because no matter what, when you're working with a mixer, whether you're working with a hand mixer or a stand mixer, there's always gonna be some level of mess. So let's see what happens with this as we're mixing. One thing to always have handy as well, a trusty spatula in case you want to actually scrape the edges away from the side of the bowl, get into the middle. I don't know if the camera can show it well by. That looks better. You want to get this mixture down to a point where it's consistent. It's called creaming the butter and sugar for a reason. I'm assuming it's crumbly like this because of the sugar that I'm using. Okay, so now this, let me see if I can get in view of the camera. This is essentially what we're looking for. Once you get it to like a very much frosting-like consistency, this is when we're going to be adding in the eggs. Before we add in the eggs, let me make sure that the eggs are at the right temperature too. Temperature is pretty important when it comes to dessert, apparently. And remember, eggs are very freaking fragile. You want to actually handle these with care. I think these are probably at an okay temperature. I don't feel like they're cold or anything on the inside, personally speaking. But then again, my judgment probably could be inconsistent. Okay. So one way to tell if your egg is probably at the right temperature is if you look at how it moves. So let me just bring up my bowl again. If it's like pretty loose and whatnot, and it doesn't really have any like slowness in its movement, then it's at a pretty good temperature. So I'm gonna mix this first egg in, and then we'll add in the second egg. Right now I have the mixer on like a lower setting because I don't want to beat air into the eggs. I want the egg to be well mixed into the wet ingredients, so that way we don't actually add any additional air to the eggs. That's the main concern, is because some recipes are really good when you add air to the eggs. Chocolate chip cookies is a case of personal preference. of whether or not you want to add air. In this case, we don't really want to add too much air, so as long as it's mixed into the wet ingredients, we are absolutely good to go. Another ingredient that I actually recently learned that adds air and makes a dessert really cakey and whatnot is milk, actually. So apparently when you add milk to a lot of recipes, it does make them, like, give them that airy, like, that very fluffy cake quality to it. So this recipe will not be adding any milk. Unless we're trying to, like, make those specific kind of biscuit-like chocolate chip cookies, this is not what we're aiming for. Once the egg is thoroughly mixed in, I am going to be adding in my vanilla extract. And a pretty good tip that I've always accentuated is that you don't exactly need to get 1 teaspoon out of this. You can just, if you want to get 1 teaspoon, just use the cap. Pretty easy. I mean, it's just about 1 teaspoon, but it's just the rest of the vanilla extract, so pretty good. Opportunity to use the last bits of it. Once again, I'm scraping the sides of the bowl to make sure that all the ingredients on the sides are well mixed in. Looks like our wet ingredients are just about good to go, so it's time to sift in our dry ingredients. And the last step of adding, of course, is always, for a chocolate chip cookie, always got to add in the chocolate chip. So let me just double check my dry ingredients measurements, and then we'll make some dough. Since we're not adding in a massive amount of ingredients, I'm going to opt to use this one. So to this bowl, we're going to be adding in 2 cups and 2 tablespoons of flour, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and, well, you can't sift salt, so we're going to add in the salt and chocolate chips last. And I bumped into my microphone, which is kind of a klutzy Kanoko move on my part. Klutzy Kanoko. I gotta really coin that. One thing I will also say, guys, is if you can get yourself, whenever you're in the kitchen, get yourself one of these spoon collections. These are really helpful to have. They have like the right exact measurements that you need for specific quantities of ingredients. So in our case, we're going to be using the trusty teaspoon, and we're going to be using the trusty tablespoon. We're gonna keep the flour out because that's gonna be for the next recipe. Although I almost forgot we need 2 cups of this stuff. Additionally, we're gonna need the cup for the chocolate chips as well. So for this amount of ingredients that I'm working into the bowl, you would need about 1 to 2 cups of chocolate chips per your choice of chocolate chips. I hope the audio is okay for anybody who's checking in, and because I know audio has been a major concern of mine. Kiba says it's good? Alright, because I need to like lean into my microphone in order to make sure you guys hear what I'm saying. Alright, so into the sifter we're going to be adding 1 more cup, and then I'll throw in a little bit of salt, and then once we get the mixture combined with the chocolate chips, we'll throw that into the oven for a good 8 to 10 minutes. It's pretty short. Then we need to give the cookies some time to cool. By the time they cool, they'll be at the right texture we want them in. Now that the sifter is done, we're going to be combining the dry ingredients with wet ingredients like so. Afterwards, once they're evenly combined, we're going to be throwing in the chocolate chips. Oh yeah, let's not forget the salt. Exact measurement would be around a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It's very tiny here, so I don't want to spill it. Something that's not actually in the recipe is that I'm going to add a tiny pinch of nutmeg. As well as a hint of cinnamon. This is not in the recipe, I just decided to add this in because I'm a little bit extra that way. This is why it's also helpful to have a spatula too, in case, because this scraping down the sides of the bowl is very troubling when you're working with the dry ingredients now. Once your dough looks combined just about like so, this is when we're throwing in the chocolate chip. Thankfully in the fridge I happen to have some chocolates left over I can easily throw in with the cookies. Also, if anybody is still on the channel, you all have your own stream avatars while the Kinoko... the Melts Munchies Kinoko Crunchies food truck is in operation. This is actually a Japanese brand chocolate choco baby right here. And Meiji is a pretty well-known brand too. This probably looks like about a half cup. Let me know. Yeah, this looks like just about a half cup. So we'll do like about a half cup of this, and then we'll do a 1 full cup of regular chocolate chips. Which we have Hershey's, not sponsored by Hershey. Fun fact, actually, the guy who made Hershey's chocolates actually has the same name as me. I actually literally did a book report on him some time ago in, I think, elementary school? Yeah, it was elementary school when I did a book report on him from a very simple picture book, I believe, some time ago. I did go to Hershey Parks at one time, though. And then after having different brands of chocolate and whatnot, I noticed Hershey's chocolate has a specific sour taste to it, mostly because of how they process the milk in the factory. So each individual their own, but I've actually picked that up when having after having a lot of Hershey's chocolate lately. Sometimes there are cases where you just can't open it with your bare hands, or otherwise they'll just come spilling out and explode. The last thing you want is an explosion of chocolate chips to clean up on the floor. So now let's load this bad boy up with... If you don't have any other use for chocolate chips, you can always, actually, let's go ahead and see what this tastes like. It's not terrible, actually. It's probably like a little bit... I can tolerate this semi-sweet a little bit better than regular milk chocolate. I just kind of feel bad for kids who grew up having Hershey's milk chocolate. Although ironically, I was one of those kids. Actually, the chocolate I do prefer is like Crunch Bar chocolate. I don't know what is it with Nestle that they get right with Crunch Bar chocolate, but I actually like their chocolate bars over this one if I want to go for like a cheaper brand. Now, if I want to go for a lot more expensive brand, we would go for, I think, Ghirardelli, or, well, then again, Godiva is kind of... Godiva is kind of processed as well. Like, it has a luscious mouthfeel, like a very melty mouthfeel, but that's just part of the illusion of the ingredients that they use. can't ever have enough chocolate chips in a chocolate chip cookie, honestly. Love the 7-layer bars. Wait, what do the 7-layer bars have again, Kiva? As soon as we actually get the cookies baking and in the pan, we'll start the Stream Raiders battle, and I'll move on to the next recipe. So, a good tip is that if you don't have your whisks, whether you're using a hand whisk or using a mixer whisk greased, what you have to do is give them a tap. And then you can get probably like 90% of the mixture that's stuck to this off and back into the bowl. Just remember that when you're baking, you're always going to lose a percentage, like a tiny, at least 1% of the mixture that you're working with anyways, because it'll end up getting stuck to the bowl no matter what. So the most you could do is like get like around 98 to 99.9% of your mixture fully cooked. So measurements aren't not always the most accurate thing when it comes to cooking anyways, because there's always going to be a loss of ingredients, one way or another. Alright, I'm just gonna taste for sweetness. Oh. There's just raw cookie dough, but I just need to like taste it for the sweetness level anyways. All I always say is that this tastes very addicting. What our final chocolate chip cookie batter looks like. I know a lot of people may be tempted to try their batter and eat like scoops of this. Because there's raw egg in this, it's not really sanitary, it's not healthy. And actually raw flour is a lot more dangerous to eat than raw eggs, but you're putting essentially 2 different pieces of contaminant in your body if you eat it like by the spoonful. If you want to eat and make edible chocolate chip cookie dough, you will have to heat treat your flour. You will have to pasteurize your eggs. If you're doing a vegan chocolate chip cookie dough, you can opt out of the eggs for like some flaxseed stuff or the chickpea liquid. I forgot what it's called. Now, let's get our tray ready, prepared, well greased, and get these bad boys and girls baking for 8 to 10 minutes. Chocolate chip cookies are a very simple staple recipe. A lot of people that I grew up with, there's always, whether it be like a store-bought brand or like a homemade brand, bake sale kind. I think it's always the bake sales that people are so flippin' nostalgic for desserts. And like it's like a buffet that you don't know like what to pay for because they all look so good as a baking tray with the parchment. Make sure it's all placed and everything. Then we will bake. I think what we'll do is probably around 2 tablespoons full for 1 cookie. This is a very messy process, even after you like greased yourself. And then again, when you're in the kitchen, what isn't a messy process? And I'm just using vegetable oil because it's like one of the most abundant oils that you can use. So for 1 tray, we're gonna bake 12 cookies for now. 8 and this, this bowl, I'm sure makes 24 cookies. 24 cookies. So because I don't have an ice cream scooper, that's why I'm using the benefit of using around 2 tablespoons full and shaping the dough with my hands to make it about equal. That's like something I'm thinking like a lot of people are wondering, because a lot of recipes say to like, oh, use an ice cream scooper for this, this, and that. But what if you really don't have one? Take 1 to 2 tablespoons and just shape it in your hands to look like a ball, and that's it. You also have to be careful because this is a very sticky dough, so don't leave in your hands for too long if the temperature of your hands is starting to affect the dough, especially since now we're really in the summertime here. Okay, so we have 12 cookies right here. Let's get these baking for 8 to 10 minutes, see how these turn out. And we shall go ahead and proceed to bake the rest of them at the same temperature, etc., etc. You know, I think something that would be really fun. What if I actually make one thing? So this tray is what I've been using for my, this is what I've been using for making my tarts. This is a tray that we got from Daiso, which is like a Japanese $1 store. And Wolfie, it's me. Thank you for the follow. I've been making my pastries out of this. They've been heating really well and forming really well in a toaster oven. And it makes really delicious tarts. So maybe we can try to see if we can make a... I can maybe try to make a big cookie out of this, maybe. But it's an idea, but I don't think I'll approach the idea now. Maybe I'll like take a picture and post it on Instagram or something. It's gonna be really funny. But while the cookies are baking, let me just go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and get the Stream Raiders battle started.